The clock had barely struck 6 p.m. when Dana Harper's shift began. The gray clouds outside pressed against the windows of the city's 911 dispatch center, a chill seeping through the glass as twilight crept in. Dana adjusted her headset, her fingers lingering for a moment over the worn keyboard, eyes scanning the dozens of flashing lights and quiet voices in the room around her. She had been a 911 operator for nearly 7 years. 7 years of hearing shattered lives, broken voices, and the desperate, terrified cries that never quite left her skin. Tonight, like so many nights, the calls would come fast and heavy. But the ones that tore at her soul most were those she already knew well, the domestic violence calls. Her first call came just 15 minutes into the shift. 911, what's your emergency? The voice was shaky, barely a whisper. A woman. Young. Scared. Please, he's here. He's drunk. He's angry. Dana's heart clenched instantly. The exact same words she'd heard too many times before. Her voice was calm but urgent. Can you tell me your name? Maria. Maria, where are you? In my apartment, the one on Lincoln and 5th. Dana keyed the address, sending patrol cars immediately. But more than that, she stayed on the line, her voice a lifeline. He won't let me leave, Maria whispered. He's yelling. I'm so scared. Outside the dispatch center, a cruiser sped toward the building. Inside, Dana's hands tightened on the console. The next call came in almost immediately. A man's voice, harsh and frantic. She called again, he said, voice cracking with anger. I told her to leave me alone. Dana recognized the pattern, a husband or boyfriend fighting with a woman who had nowhere to run. Sir, I need you to calm down. Is anyone hurt? No, but she's lying. She wants to ruin me. Dana sighed inwardly but stayed professional. I'm dispatching officers to check on both of you. Her screen showed the blinking dots of officers en route to 2 separate addresses, Maria's apartment and the man's house a few blocks away. She listened as the argument escalated on the other line, the man yelling, slamming doors. The tension crackled through the headset, a storm about to break. Hours passed with the same pattern, a frightened woman hiding in a closet, a child crying in the background, threats whispered and shouted, promises to never call again only to dial back moments later. Dana's throat felt raw from constant talking. She longed for silence but knew it would never come. Another call, this one colder. 911, I need help. He's not supposed to be here. Her instincts screamed danger. Where are you? Just off Madison. He broke in. Dana alerted the police, her fingers racing. She stayed on the line, guiding the caller through hiding places, urging her to stay quiet, to breathe slowly. Every moment stretched out painfully. She thought about the officers responding, walking into volatile homes, not knowing if a gun or a fist awaited them. By midnight, the emotional weight pressed heavy on Dana's chest. She rubbed her eyes, trying to focus as the calls blurred together, faces she couldn't see, voices she couldn't forget. Her supervisor leaned over. You okay, Harper? Dana forced a smile. I'm fine. Just tired. But the truth was darker. The faces of the victims haunted her dreams, the rage and fear soaked into her bones. Just as the night seemed endless, another call shattered the momentary lull. 911, what's your emergency? A man sobbed. I hurt her. I didn't mean to. Dana's voice softened, trying to steady her own breaking heart. Sir, are you safe now? Is she breathing? The man's breath hitched, the weight of regret spilling through the line. Dana stayed with him, walking him through first aid instructions until officers arrived. As dawn approached, Dana's shift was drawing to a close, but the fatigue was overwhelming. She looked around the room at her fellow operators, some silently wiping tears, others staring blankly at their screens. They were all warriors of invisible battles, holding the broken pieces of people's lives with nothing but their voices. She took a deep breath, readying herself to hand over to the next shift, knowing the cycle would begin anew. And somewhere out there, someone would be waiting for her voice to be the only lifeline they had left. The gray light of dawn crept slowly across the city skyline, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers through the empty streets. Dana Harper stepped out of the 911 dispatch center, the weight of the night pressing down on her like a physical burden. Her legs felt weak, her breath shallow. The storm of voices, cries, and silent screams she had carried inside her throughout the hours hadn't left. Instead, they clung to her skin, tangled in her thoughts, refusing to fade. She stood motionless on the cracked sidewalk, watching the city wake up while inside, the scenes of the night replayed relentlessly. There was Maria, the young woman who had huddled in her closet, trembling as her abuser raged outside the door. Dana had stayed on the line with her for over 20 minutes, whispering calm words, sending officers racing to the apartment. Maria's soft, scared voice haunted her now, a fragile thread of hope that had barely held against the storm. Then there was the man who had called, voice choked with tears and guilt. "I hurt her. I didn't mean to." His confession had broken through the professional wall Dana tried so hard to maintain. She had talked him through first aid, then held the line as officers arrived, hoping to keep both him and the woman safe. But remorse and love tangled in dangerous, complicated knots, and Dana knew the cycle might repeat. The night had been relentless. One call bleeding into the next. Each a story of terror and desperation. And always, the children, silent witnesses to violence, too young to understand but old enough to carry scars that never heal. Her phone buzzed. The small screen flashed with an alert, a new call had come in from Jenna. Dana recognized the number instantly. Jenna's voice was sharp in her memory, fragile but fierce. A woman she had helped before, who had fled abusive hands, only to find them closing in again. 911, what's your emergency? Dana had asked, heart pounding. He's here. He found me, Jenna had whispered, panic bleeding through the line. I'm sending help, Dana had said, keeping her voice steady. Where are you? At the bus station. I think he's following. The seconds dragged like hours as Dana coordinated patrols and emergency responders, her eyes glued to the map, tracking police movement through the twisting city streets. Jenna's voice grew more frantic. He's getting closer. Please, help me. Suddenly, the line was filled with harsh sounds, a struggle, a cry torn from deep in the throat, the snap of something breaking. Jenna? Are you still there? Dana's voice cracked with fear. The line went dead. In that agonizing silence, the radio crackled alive. Dispatch, this is Officer Mallory. We've got a woman down at the bus station. Requesting immediate medical assistance. Dana felt the breath leave her lungs. Relief surged, but it was shadowed by dread. Jenna was alive. For now. Back in the dispatch center, the news shift was arriving, faces pale and tired but focused. Dana slumped in her chair, exhaustion flooding every muscle. The glow of monitors lit the dark room like a ghostly dawn. Her colleagues gathered quietly, sharing stories of their own battles with the night's calls, the shouted threats, the desperate sobs, the children begging for safety, the silent pleas that shattered hearts. They were all carrying invisible wounds, scars carved by voices on the other end of the line. Dana's mind drifted to the officers who risked their lives running into volatile homes, uncertain if their next breath might be their last. She thought of the battered women who called night after night, trapped in a cycle they couldn't break, and the children who watched it all, too young to understand but never to forget. The room was thick with a shared weight, the unspoken grief of a job that demanded endless strength, yet gave so little in return. She walked home through the quiet streets, her thoughts heavy with images of fear and hope tangled together. In the solitude of her small apartment, Dana poured a cup of coffee, her hands trembling from exhaustion and emotion. She sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the swirling liquid, the silence pressing in around her. The calls had taken everything, but still, she knew she would return tomorrow. Because each voice on the line was a story that mattered, a flicker of light in the darkness. Because for every woman hiding in fear, for every child crying in silence, for every man regretting the moment he lost control, someone needed to be their lifeline. Her phone buzzed again, and this time, she let it go unanswered. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I'm still here. I'm still listening." And in that fragile moment, she found the strength to carry on.